Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the John DeVito Show, Take Two. We'll see if the audio is working this time. You know, you got to love it when you have audio issues, but I'm my own producer, so you got to give me a break. I mean, I'm old, too. I'm 53 years old, and I'm working this production board and dealing with internet and computers and all this high-tech stuff. So you got to bear with a borderline boomer, sometimes. You got to give me a break. So hopefully when my crowd comes back in, I will find out whether or not I have audio, because today I'm going to be interviewing Felix from ThisWop Doesn't Lie, and this should be a really good show. So I hope everyone is enjoying their Thursday. Felix, let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Hopefully we've ironed out the audio issues. If not, this borderline boomer is not sure what to do. So good. All right, we hear you this time. So good news. Or you hear me this time. So call on in when you get a chance, Felix, and we'll get this bad boy going. I didn't change anything. All the connections are the same. I just restarted, and here we are. So hopefully everyone is having a good Thursday. We are looking at New Year's Eve, which is tomorrow across the country. And, of course, in Boston, we had our fearless leader, the Mayor Wu, who is imposing vaccine ID card mandates and things like that. She got on this morning and did a show an interview talking about the new first night plans in Boston. So explain to me how this makes sense before we get to Felix. Now, what Michelle Wu said this morning during her press conference was she gave a speech saying how all of the indoor activities in Boston for first night are going to be moving outdoors. Now, we're a hardy bunch up here. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you want to go into Boston and you want to celebrate New Year's Eve, if it's 40 degrees, it's 40 degrees. We're outside. We're used to the cold weather. So I get that. That's fine. But then literally in the next breath of what she had to say, she said, okay, we're moving everything outdoors to keep everybody safe, right? But then she said, we don't want people driving into the city. We want people to take public transportation into the city so we don't have additional congestion. Now, if anyone's ever been to Boston and you've been on the T, which is our transit system, the trains that go around Boston, they're above ground, kind of like San Francisco. You're in there like sardines on top of each other. So instead of driving your individual car and having your 6 feet of safety, she is encouraging people in Boston to go outside when they're at first night, but take public transportation in. So jam yourself into a train, jam yourself into a bus. It's all good. You can't get COVID there, but you might get COVID, at first night at one of the activities. So you know what they say, right? It's all about science, right? It's all about science. This is what I'm talking about. So Black Dragon, Captain A, Aaron Roberts, welcome in. Felix, if you're ready to call in, why don't you give me a shout? There you are. And I'm sure Eric is going to be in soon, and he likes to be a part of these. So I just approved Felix in. So Felix, let me know when you're in and you're ready to go.
All right, I'm here.
Hey, my friend, how you doing?
Good, I'm hanging in there.
That's good. Hey, sorry about the technical issues the first time. I don't know what happened. Everything was connected right, and you know how it goes, man. Sometimes Podbean just does not want to cooperate, especially with us.
Yep.
So it could be me. Who knows? But hey, the first thing I wanted to comment on about you is I saw this show that you have coming up. I think it's tomorrow night. I love the little picture of the aliens, and I love the title of the show. So if you could, explain to everybody what your show is going to be about last night, because I literally laughed out loud when I saw that. So let me know what it's about.
Well, the name of the show is Joe Biden's Uranus. And actually, well, of course, I can't stand the president.
Right.
He's just a joke. And but actually, the show is about, I actually have a NASA scientist that's coming on the show, and we're talking about Uranus, and not the one you sit down on.
Now, explain to me now, was it Uranus or was it Pluto that was declassified as a planet? I think it was Pluto, right? That they said is no longer a planet.
I think so, yeah. And I learned some interesting facts about Uranus. It's like it's on an angle. It's weird. It's not like all the other planets, but it's going to be an interesting show because this person works for NASA, and it's going to be great.
Now, how'd you get someone on that works at NASA? That's pretty cool, in my opinion.
Well, Well, it's actually my girlfriend's son, and he's up visiting also. He's spending the week with us. So we got him to. He's going to, answer questions or whatever.
Well, that's cool. Now, I got to tell you a funny story now. Remember when I first scheduled this interview, I had typed
Yeah,
in the description of the show so it would appear, down in the new upcoming shows section on Podbean.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
word WAP kept disappearing. I actually typed it in, but it would disappear.
yeah.
So you
Well,
had
you know
sent me an
what?
email and told me about it. So I'm like, I got to fix that. How did I
Yeah,
miss that? So I went in and did it 2 or 3 more times, and Podbean removes the word WAP when you type that in.
yeah.
So I
Well,
didn't
I'll
realize
tell
it
you
did.
straight. It's funny you brought that up because when I typed in anus,
Yeah.
Joe, they removed it,
Did they?
and that's why I spelled it with I believe two S's, and they wouldn't allow it. I mean, really?
Well,
They
I guess
didn't
I
have
feel
a
kind of
problem.
good because I'm an Italian guy, and when I see WAP being
Yep.
removed, that's kind of a good thing, I guess. Now, does anyone out there? I'm sure that Felix knows what it is, but what does WAP stand for? Does anybody know out there? I know what it stands for. I'm just wondering if anybody else knows what WAP means. Because it was a derogatory comment used to describe Italians. More so back in the day. You occasionally hear it now. But personally, I'm not offended by it. I think it's kind of funny, but it's one of those things. So, hey, listen, Felix, and I'll let you guys know. If someone
Yeah.
types in the right, I'll tell you. If you don't know what it is, I'll tell you in a couple of minutes. But if you could, for those of the people here that are in the live, and for those people out there that are going to access my show via
Hmm.
lately I've been pretty hot. I've been getting, over 200 downloads per episode, which for me is pretty good. So there's going to be a lot of people that listen to it there. Please tell people what your show's about and why they should tune into your show.
Well, mainly it's what's happening in the news we talk about, and I play music also. And I have to say, it's explicit. So, anything goes in my show. The only thing I will never allow is any racial comments. I'm not going to allow that. But otherwise, it's mainly some music involved, and also we talk a lot about politics and what's going on in the world right now.
Now, if I remember correctly, I had you on before. You had called into one of my shows. Now, I think you and I are about
Yeah,
the same age, right? How old are you again?
67.
So you're older than me. Well, it feels good to have someone actually that's older than me because I'm on this platform. I always feel like the old man. So that actually makes me feel good. I'm not the only old guy here. But what made you want to get on at the age of 67 and do a podcast? You got on. What
Yeah.
kind of lit the fire under you to do this? Because you've been successful, and I just kind of want to know what your driving factor is.
Well, it's strange because when I first started, it was tough getting any downloads, and now I'm getting like 500 a day, which is crazy.
Right.
But the thing is, what really made me start, I just retired. I worked in nursing homes for 30 years, and I believe my first podcast was about nursing home abuse because I've seen so much of it, and I had so much to tell. I just got the story out about that, and then it just kept on rolling from there. I'm also into antique cars. I have a hot rod. I have a 1927 Ford Model T with a 327 Chevy engine in it. I
Beautiful.
take that to car shows. And
Wow.
I'm still riding my Harley. I got a 2009 Rocker C, it's called. They only made this particular Harley Davidson for 3 years. So I enjoy doing that also. And I'm also a pistol instructor. I'm a certified NRA pistol instructor. So I do that also on the side.
Listen, you hit on a bunch of things that interest me as well. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to delve into a couple of those things.
Yeah.
I'll start with the cars because also I have experience in nursing homes, so I want to talk about that also. But now
All
I
right.
finally bought. It's not really an older muscle car, but I did buy a 2004 Corvette convertible. I got that 2 summers
Nice.
ago, and that was kind of what I fell into. because what I really want is like a 1970 Chevelle SS, and those are going for about 70 grand right
Yep.
now. So the wife said no to the Chevelle, but I was able to finagle a Corvette convertible, and that's at least kind of keeping me somewhat happy in the summer. But man,
Yep.
I love old cars. That's something that just is a passion of mine. Now, explain a little bit about your car. Now, you were saying you go to shows. What type of shows do you go to? Are they big shows? And has your car done well in those shows?
Well, I bring them to a lot of local shows
Yeah.
where I live here in Connecticut. And there's a local diner also that has car shows every Saturday in the spring and summertime and near the end of fall. And this diner's been doing this for like 40, 50 years. And I really built this car and I dedicated it to my brother. At the time, when I was 12 years old, my brother was 17 years old, and he drowned at Candlewood Lake in Connecticut. It was on Memorial Day. I wasn't there at the time. Thank God I wasn't there. But he passed away, and he was into these type of cars because I remember riding in them with him. He would take me out, just a little kid, and he had a '57 Chevy, and he had a hot rod comparable to mine. I don't think it was a 27. I think it was like in the 30s. And I built a car around that type of car that I used to ride in with him. And I basically dedicated the car to him. So that's what made me get into, and I've been working ever since a teenager. You mentioned a Chevelle. I helped a friend of mine who's no longer with us. His name was Robert Lee, and he had a Chevelle, and we put in a 427 in this car with a tunnel ram. And I remember,
because
I
usually
think
you have
that's the
either a
fastest.
396 or a 454 in the Chevelles.
Yeah, and I remember we were on I-95, and he hit 210 miles an hour in this car. I'll never forget
I
that.
love those cars. Now, wouldn't you like to be able to go back in time into the early to mid '80s and just go
Yep.
buy like 10 of those cars and put them in a warehouse someplace? Because you could have
Oh
really picked up a
man.
Chevelle for nothing back in the '80s. Teenagers would drive them around as beaters almost back in the day. And
Yep.
little did you know what they were going to be
Yep.
worth today. It's just crazy, the money.
Oh hell yeah! I had so many cars in my life. I mean, one of my favorites was a '65 Buick Riviera, and
Hmm.
this Buick Riviera had the Wildcat engine in it, and it had dual quads, two four barrels. And I remember when that car opened up, forget it. You'll never. I used to bury the speedometer. The speedometer went up to 140, and I had so much fun in that car. And then I had a '46 Ford Coupe. It had a 327 Chevy engine in it. It had 69 GTO bucket seats, and it had a '57 Mercury dashboard. And the car was cool as hell.
That's
I
crazy.
loved it.
I love cars, man. I'm the same way. I could talk about this forever. I still have some ideas as to what I'm going to do moving forward. The Corvette was kind of my gateway car into getting my
Yeah.
wife to agree to have like an additional car around the house. Eventually, I'm going to parlay this into something a little bit older and a little bit nicer. So, and the good thing is, I
Yeah.
had to sell her on it, and she likes riding in it now. So I'm like, all right, cool. She likes the car.
There you
I'm in.
go.
But listen, I want to get back to nursing homes in a minute. But before that, I want to ask you a little bit
Yep.
about some of the things that's going on today, because we've got some people that tuned in to hear us talk about the state of the state right now, and the state of the country, and the state of the
Yep.
world. And some of the things right now that are happening is crazy. We've got this COVID stuff that's going on. I know that
Yeah.
the disease is legitimate. However, it's being used, in my opinion. You have Biden the other day just kind of like washed his hands of it, sent everything back to the states. I know my wife, who's a
Yep.
doctor, was bullshit, because she's like, okay, so you've been setting this standard, and now all of a sudden you're sending it back to the states, you're sending it back on the doctors, and we're going to get buried now because he's decided this is a no-win battle. And in my opinion, it's his attempt to salvage, some type of approval rating in the polls. But what are your
Yeah.
feelings on COVID and the mandates? Boston has their new ID card mandate coming into play, which I think is insane. What are your feelings on it?
Yeah. I think, you know what, I'll tell you what happened with my own personal experience. I mean, I lost two close friends, one recently, about a month ago, to COVID, and I was not vaccinated. So I went back to my doctor and I spoke with him, and he told me if you're going to get the vaccine, get the Johnson and Johnson because it's a vector
Yeah.
vaccine. It's not
They,
an
they reported that on the news
mRNA.
this morning. I just saw that this
Yep,
morning, that Johnson and
yep,
Johnson's more effective against Omicron. They were talking about it today.
yep. So I went a month ago and I got the shot. Right? Actually, me and my girlfriend, while we lived together, and she got very sick for like 24 hours. She was throwing up constantly, couldn't stay out of the bathroom, and I just had a headache. That was it. But to see my two friends like that pass away, and they were not vaccinated, was really upsetting. And but the thing is, what I think, if I was the president of the United States, first of all, I would never come on TV and blame the unvaccinated people for spreading anything. I mean, it's a virus. Whether you're vaccinated or not, you can spread it. It doesn't matter. There's no cure for it as of yet. But I think if you really want people to go, the first thing I would say, listen, here are the facts, what I know from vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. And it's up to you to make that decision. I wouldn't even press it even further than that. I wouldn't say, to protect your family and none of that crap. And to mandate it is so wrong, in my opinion. I mean, what happened to my body, my right? Is
Amen.
that thrown out the window completely? It's total BS. The whole thing is BS. And getting back to talking about about nursing homes, before when COVID first hit, we had 3 patients that had COVID in this particular nursing home where I worked at. The sad thing was, you really don't know across this country how many people actually died of COVID. And the reason why you don't know, because I'm part of the living proof of it. There was people that I knew, patients that had cancer and heart disease that passed away from that. They had no COVID. They were written off as COVID deaths. And the COVID deaths reporting was relaxed. It was relaxed. So you didn't have to take it any step further. You just wrote it on the death form, and that was the end of it. There was no investigations. And the reason being they wrote people off as COVID deaths, they collected a $3,800
Yep.
check from the state of Connecticut.
And for
And not
anybody
only did
for anybody that doubts this, I also have contacts in the medical field. What he is saying is
yep,
absolutely 100% correct, where these medical entities were profiting off of labeling people as dying by COVID. No doubt about it. It's 100% true.
exactly. Exactly. And at one point in time, I went to the owner, and this was one owner that owned 8 nursing homes throughout Connecticut. And he just shook his head and laughed when I told him. I said, really? You're making money off of people and you're telling the family members they're dying of COVID and they're not? And he wouldn't answer, just laughed and walked away because he's collecting all kinds of checks. And not only nursing homes, hospitals did the same things. And imagine throughout the United States, because the federal government relaxed the reporting system, and so did all the states. And the sad part about this whole thing with the nursing home business, state of Connecticut, they never in 2 years, they're supposed to inspect the Department of Health, supposed to inspect each nursing home every year, unless it's under special focus, meaning, they had issues before where they come and inspect every 6 months. They didn't come into this nursing home for 2 years. And some of the CNAs treated these people like crap. I wouldn't put my dog in these nursing homes. It's a damn disgrace. In my personal opinion, they should do away with all of them. All of them.
Let
It's a
me tell you my
disgrace.
experience a little bit. Now, you mentioned nursing homes, and obviously you have a lot more experience than I do. But right now, I have an 81-year-old father who has dementia. He's not doing well at
Right.
home. We have visiting angels coming into his house, and
Yep.
we are doing everything in our power to prevent him from going into a nursing home for a number of reasons. Number
Yeah.
one, My wife's grandmother, now granted, she was 90, but my wife's grandmother was in a nursing home in New Hampshire. She died from COVID,
Hmm.
supposedly. Whether or not that was true, who knows, but that's supposedly what she died from. And I, when I was back in high school and college, worked at a nursing home as a nurse's aide for a number of years
All
because
right.
my mother was a nurse in a nursing home. So I got to watch what it was like for the people in these nursing homes. And for a while, I worked for an agency and I would go to a variety of different nursing homes, depending on who needed me
Yeah.
for a given day.
Yeah.
So I remember there were some nursing homes that were great. There were some that really took care of their people, but then there were others. I'll never forget this one that I would go into. I would work maybe, if I was working the 7 to 3 shift, I would get in at 7 o'clock in the morning. And if I had 10 patients, literally almost every
Hmm.
time I went in, almost all 10 of the patients were laying in their own feces when I arrived because in the overnight
Yeah.
shift they weren't changing them, and that's something as a certified nurse's aide you have to do. So for me, I know that if I send my father to a nursing home, he's going to resist, they're going to drug him, and that's going to be the end. So
Of
even though he has a
course.
great quality of life right now, I still don't want to send him there.
Of course. And I know probably what you're going through because I took care of my mother for 10 years. I had her move in my apartment at the time. And that was the work. I'm telling you, the hardest thing I ever done in my life. I would work, I'd have a nurse's aide in the daytime, and I'd come home from work, and then I would take over and take care of her. I don't know how I got through all that. I mean, you know, it's not an easy job in nursing homes what CNAs do, but I'll tell you, the majority of the CNAs that I've witnessed, I like I said, I wouldn't have them watch my dog.
True.
And during lunchtime, the nursing home I was working at, they're out in the parking lot getting high.
Yep.
Everybody's smoking herb out in their car, and they come back in, they stink of weed. They have people laying in bed. One time I went up to the director and I said, "You need to get Mr. So and so out of this bed. He hasn't come out of this bed in 2, 3 weeks, and that's a damn shame." And the guy couldn't. He had a stroke. He couldn't walk. They left him in his own crap for days.
They
For
do.
days.
Yep.
It's the most horrible place anybody could be put into. And with dementia, if they're abused, who's going to know? Who's going to know? That's why whoever has anyone in nursing homes, and I said it on my show many times, go in there as much as possible and look over your loved one's body. Take their clothes off and check their whole body out for any bed sores, any
Oh,
marks on their face.
bed
We,
sores.
we
I
had one.
remember, I mean, for all of you that aren't familiar with nursing homes,
Yep.
I would go in and there would be residents in there. Now, when he says bed sore, don't think of it as a sore. Think of it as a gaping hole in their body where you can
Hell
literally see
yeah.
into their body. That's what a bed sore becomes if it's not treated
Yep.
properly. And we had patients that literally had these giant holes in their body where you could see inside of their body. And it was just horrible. I mean, just terrible, terrible, terrible to witness.
Exactly. It's an open wound, and you could see their tendons and everything in their body. And we have one CNA, and there's unions throughout the nursing home, and they save these people from getting fired. It's beyond me. We had one CNA was charged 3 times with sexual abuse,
Mm.
and every time this man was charged, the union got his job, and finally a fourth time he was fired because this particular patient was cognitive. This person was aware of what's going on. And it's unbelievable. That's why the majority of people in nursing homes die at night. And the reason why they die at night, I've caught nurses, not even CNAs, nurses take the phone off the hook that was in their ward so they wouldn't answer the call bells being rung by the patients that maybe are having a heart attack. And there's no help coming. That's why the majority of them die at night. And one particular nursing home I worked at, I reported abuse. They fired me on the spot. I'm not going to mention it, the name of it, but I sued them and I won. So, you know, I don't care what happens when I was working there. You're not going to pull that kind of crap while I'm there. And I see that. No, It's not going to happen.
Nice. Hey, crazy lady, I wanted to mention to you really quickly. I saw your Instagram post this morning, and that touched my heart. It really did. So I just wanted to let you know that for me, it wasn't a quick double tap when I saw what you had posted. So that really touched my heart this morning. And prayers and love to you and your family. So I just wanted to pass that along to you here as well. Now, let's talk about the political atmosphere in this country. I had a good conversation yesterday with Vinny. He came onto the show, and we were talking about the atmosphere we have in this country. I mean, we've got right now, obviously, the left is completely in control of everything. The right is fighting back. You know, we've got Biden as president, and, you know, in my opinion, that's been a huge failure. I'm just wondering what you're seeing right now from your eyes in this country. You know, what's happening right now. What do you see is going to happen in 2022 in the midterm elections? You know, are we ever going to be able to, I guess, reunite this country? Because right now we are a very divided country, but I think, you know, we've been divided by the media and a lot of different entities. So I just kind of get you like to get your take on what's
Yeah.
happening right now in the country politically.
I'm just totally disgusted what's happening in the U.S. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. I mean, even the crime rate is through the roof, and you have a president who's really not with it, and I don't even believe that he is controlling or he is the actual president. I hate to say it. This man's
I
a
agree with you.
fool, a complete moron. And if it was up to him, he'd take everyone's right away. What really upset me when this idiot was talking about gun control, and if you notice, if you look back in YouTube at his speeches, it went from, well, you don't need a 30 or 40 round magazine to go hunting, you know. And then he realized to himself, well, this is not about hunting. The Second Amendment, it said nothing about hunting. It's about protecting you from tyranny, from a government that goes bad, basically, and to protect yourself and your family. And this idiot, if it was up to him, he would take away everybody's firearms, and it won't solve a damn thing. I could go right now outside with $1,000 on me, and I'll buy a machine gun with no problem right now. Get in my car. It might take me a couple hours to get it, but I can get an illegal gun quicker than I can get a legal one. And that's sad right there. And now you're taking everybody's rights away. You're gonna what are you gonna do next, Mr. President? Close down the United States because you're a failure. You should have had these test kits out there. And Connecticut was supposed to distribute test kits today. They even mentioned it on our local channel. They said the National Guard's going to hand out right here where I live right now. They were supposed to hand out 17,000 of them, and now the governor of Connecticut blamed it on the ships that are out there next to California where they can't come into port. And this president will never take blame for anything he does. And then you got a jerk of a vice president. Yesterday alone, I was watching the news. Over 12,000 illegals crossed the border. And these 12,000 got into the United States. And that's happening daily. You don't even know what they're bringing in. You don't know whether they have COVID. You don't know anything. And this is a damn joke. What really boils me the most is you're supporting these illegals coming into the country, and you have homeless veterans. I don't know how many thousands of homeless veterans out there that need our help, that fought for this country. But yet you're going to support illegals to come here. Listen, my grandparents came from Italy, and they came through Ellis Island, and they came this way, the right way. They didn't come here illegal to start a new life. And I'm all for it, believe me. Anybody who wants to leave their country should have the right to come to the United States. Hey, what's better than the United States? I don't know of any country this great. But the thing is, you just can't walk into the country. You need to come here legally. And I never thought at my age, I'd see all this bull crap going on within the government. The government that, when I was a little kid, I used to pass around President Kennedy's buttons because I was supporting the Democrats. And as I got older, I was a Democrat almost all my life until the last couple of years. I'll never vote Democrat again. I couldn't give a damn who's running. I don't give a damn anymore. And how evil the Democrats have turned. Nancy Pelosi, all of them.
Hey,
evil people.
Just so you know, my perspective, same thing. I grew up in New Hampshire with a Democratic family. My father's a Democrat. My mother, my whole family Democrat. I was a Democrat. I was raised Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton twice. I always voted Democrat. The same thing happened to me. I think it started to happen to me when he wagged his little bony finger at us and told us, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I think that was the first time I realized that he boldly lied to me. And I loved him. Up until that point, I was 100% Bill Clinton, because for those of you that are too young to remember him, he was right up there with Reagan. Is one of the best public speakers I've ever seen. I mean, he could bring a crowd alive and he could make you feel patriotic. And he was really, really good about getting in front of a crowd and really pushing all the right buttons. So that was something, you're right. And we had Juanita Broaddrick on the other day. For those of you that didn't hear that interview, I interviewed Juanita Broaddrick last week, and it's now published out there. Juanita Broaddrick, I couldn't believe she did this. We had her on the show, and she told me leading up to the show that she was not going to talk about the Bill Clinton rape. And I said, that's okay. I don't want to talk about it. We'll respect you 100%. She said she would talk about the Clintons. So I just asked her an open-ended question. I said, listen, could you tell me what you know about the Clintons? And apparently she felt comfortable. She went into the whole story and gave details about the rape and what happened and about how this animal bit her several times as she was trying to resist. Every time she tried to resist the rape, he bit her lip and drew blood and hurt her, twisted her shoulder into the mattress. And then when he was done raping her, he put his clothes on, walked to the door, put his sunglasses on, looked at her and said, you better put some ice on that. And that's the title of her book that describes the rape that she had at the hands of him. So when I started to pay attention to him, I started to realize the evil that we were looking at. And really, if you look at everything that's been going on, the majority, in my opinion, of the evils in this country have been perpetrated by the Democrats. It's about control. It's about taking away our rights. It's about authority, just destroying the America we know. So, I mean, I'm with you 100% on that, because I was a Democrat. I will never vote in that direction again unless there's a massive change in the way things are going right now.
Yeah. And I totally believe that this presidential election, was rigged. Totally.
Yes,
there's no way all those people voted for this moron. If you notice, the percentage was very low when he was on the stage arguing with Kamala Harris after she practically called him a racist, which he is and always was one. I mean, look at, he was with, Richard Byrd? That was in the Ku Klux Klan. Of course. And if you look at Joe Biden's entire history, all his comments were racial. All of them. I don't want my children growing up in a racial jungle. Really? If you don't vote for me, you ain't black?
Yep.
Are you kidding? President Obama is articulate and clean and bright. Holy Christ. Can you imagine? And then you got a son that's out there with prostitutes partying like crazy, smoking crack, and the video's out there and nobody gives a damn. None of the Democrats care. Can you imagine if that was Trump's son? Oh my God. You'd see it in the newspaper constantly. And Trump's beautiful wife was never on the cover of any magazine while he was president, but yet Joe Biden's wife is on all of them.
Frumpy Jill.
What kind of
Frumpy Jill? Let me explain to everybody what just happened in Boston. I'll try to do it quickly, but you have to hear this. It has to do right with what you're talking about now with the racism. Very quickly, for the people not in the Boston area, our new progressive mayor, Michelle Wu, who studied under Elizabeth Warren at Harvard and is a complete and utter liberal communist that is now running the city of Boston. She came out and said right before Christmas they were going to have voter or vaccine ID cards now being required in Boston, in restaurants and gyms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what she didn't understand about Boston, and this is something, I don't even know if this is a term. If it isn't, I've invented this term.
Mm-hmm.
What you have in Boston is you don't have liberal Democrats. We have conservative Democrats in Boston. And those are people that believe they're Democrats, but when it really comes down to it, they're more conservatives. So when the residents of Boston started seeing her attacking their freedoms, people have gone crazy in Boston. She gave a speech and people were blowing whistles, screaming. You couldn't even hear her. They are organizing protests on City Hall coming up in the next week or two. She is getting killed on social media. So what she did was she came out and called everybody racist. She said, I'm getting racist attacked. He's a misogynist, blah, 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 attacking the people of Boston. So in Boston, we have this guy that's a reporter. And if you don't know him, he has a site on Twitter or whatever, Turtle Boy is his name. And he lives in the next town over for me. He went back into Mayor Wu's new communication chief's Twitter account. She's a black woman. And he found tweets from her from 10 years ago where she was ripping Asians, talking about her chinky eyes, talking about she'd like to date an Asian if it wasn't for the stereotypes about small penis size. She was using the N-word. Oh my God. And the best was, one of the best comments she made was, and I'm sorry for people that don't like cursing, but this is a quote, quote unquote, sucking dick is an art form. And I mean, she had all these comments. So everyone now is pushing this on her, saying, okay, you called everyone in Boston racist. How about your new communications chief who is ripping Asians and you're Asian? Not one comment. She won't address it. She won't talk about it. It's like it never happened. So she went out and called all of Boston racist and misogynist. But when her own appointee as communication chief used racist slurs, she's pretending like it never happened. And that's what the liberals do. You know, that's what they do. So I'm sorry, but I had to get that out. It's driving me crazy.
It sounds like you got a winner there, man.
Oh.
Hey, John, is this where you grew up in Boston?
I grew up in New Hampshire, and I live now, depending on where you live, I live in Central Mass, out near Worcester now. Where do you live in Connecticut? Don't give me the exact town, but just generally. Are you south or are you further north?
Down. I'm about, if I hop in my car right now and I cross the border to New York, I'm about 40 minutes away.
Okay. So you're probably down in like the Danbury area, somewhere in that ballpark?
Stamford.
Yeah, in the middle
Okay.
near the middle, like past Bridgeport.
Yeah. I know that area pretty well. I travel New England for my real job, and I get down there quite a bit. So let me ask you, we've got the media that's dividing our country like we've never seen before. I mean, you're 67, I'm 53. I've never seen it. What can we do as Americans to, again, take control of our country back? Because, again, we are the people. This is our country. And these politicians were meant to be put in place to serve us. It's not the other way around. But we're so divided right now. Is there a path back for us to find a way to work together again and hopefully get this thing back on track?
I think there is, but it's not going to be easy. And, the first thing that comes into my mind is vote. Get out there and vote. But is that going to matter if the election's rigged?
They cheat.
I mean, yeah. And when you mention media, I'll never forget watching Walter Cronkite. This man was fantastic because all he did was present the news as it was. He never gave his opinion like the rest of the news medias today. He just said the news, whether you liked it or not. He said it how it went down. You'll never see that again. Never. And all the news medias, I don't care what station it is, it's all reporting on their perceptive of what's going on around in the news. And it's sickening, man. It's sickening. Like I said, if I knew everything was going to wind up like it is today, I would have partied more. I would have went out. And partied more. And if I dropped dead when I was younger, well, so be it. But I never thought I was going to see this kind of crap.
No,
ever.
It's crazy.
Ever.
Well, that's one of the things I've been saying a lot to people is, for those of you that are in here right now, and for those of you that listen via download, for new people that maybe come in, we cannot all continue to live our lives in fear. This is no way to live. And again, I don't want to die.
No.
I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to die. I'm like everybody else, but I am not going to spend the next 5 or 10 years living in a closet, hanging out in my basement with 3 masks on, terrified to live my life. Because again,
Yeah.
you know what? You could spend the next 3 years hunkered down in your basement, and then when you go out, you get hit by a bus and your life's over. I mean, you've got to live every day like it's your last day. And right now, the government is taking that away from us. And we're seeing depression rise. We're seeing anxiety rise. And in my opinion, this is all part of the bigger plan, that great reset, this global dominance, all of these things to just
Yeah.
control the people. And D, I see your comment about wear one mask. I get the whole mask mandate thing. I just disagree with it. I've seen videos from Dr. Fauci. I've seen medical reports on the masks that most people wear. And basically, it's like throwing sand through a chain link fence. It's not going to stop the virus. It is a decoration for your face. Now, so all of you know where I stand. I am vaccinated. I am vaccinated and I am boosted. So my family did make the choice to get vaccinated. However, I will not spend one dime in the city of Boston if they institute that mandate, because I still believe in freedom of choice. I believe that via the Constitution, if I want to get the vaccine, I get it. If you don't want to get it, you shouldn't get it. And guess what? You're welcome to come to my house and I will hug you when you get here, because that's what I believe in this country. Is everybody should have the fundamental right to freedom, and that's being taken away from us on a day-to-day basis. Now, I want to jump back to one thing you said earlier, because I want to get my feelings out on this also. Was the election stolen? You said yes. 100%. I went to bed at midnight that night. Trump was destroying Biden. It wasn't even close. I went to bed pretty comfortable that I was going to wake up in the morning and Trump was our president. All of a sudden, I get up in the morning. You find out that all the major polling locations were shut down in the middle of the night. The counters were sent home, and then you see videos of them pulling suitcases out from underneath tables and counting ballots in the middle of the night on video. What in the heck do you think they were doing? They were cheating. They were cheating. And it amazes me how the media and the Democrats won't address this. Again, if there was cheating in this election and there was cheating, like they said, when Trump won, don't we need to figure out if there's actually a cheating problem to maintain the integrity of our elections, to make sure it doesn't happen going forward? And it's just crazy to me that our government just shut it down. No cheating, gaslighting of the Republicans to make us seem like we're all crazy. And that's exactly what we've seen. So in my opinion, like you said earlier, 100% chance. I don't think there's a doubt in the world that Trump won the election and Biden cheated, or his team cheated and put him in office,
Exactly. And I mean, can you imagine this moron getting the most votes ever in history? Never happening. Never. And we'll never know the truth. As more time and time goes by, you'll never know the truth. And you know what really boils my blood too is I want to know where this damn virus came from. And I swear it came from the lab. Was it released on purpose or was it released by accident? And that's another sad thing. We'll never know the truth because you have this moron that's in bed with them. His son's in bed with them. You'll never know the truth. And that really pisses me off.
I agree completely. And John Gale mentions, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And I agree completely. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was done on purpose. Now, I don't know a lot about this. So this is me just guessing as to what goes on. But I would imagine in a lab like that, they have safety protocols. I imagine they have several layers of safety protocols to make sure dangerous viruses do not escape. Again, how they would escape, I have no idea. To me, it seems like it had to be a plan where someone was able to sidestep the safety protocols and release this virus out into the public so this would happen. Now, was this a plan to aid the Great Reset by controlling people across the world? Was this a plan to eliminate older, unhealthy people that are a drain on the system? Who knows what it was? But I mean, you have people like Bill Gates talking about how we have overpopulation in this world. Could you imagine? I mean, again, it's even terrifying to think about that we have a government or a collection of governments that is willing to perform genocide on the population of our world to control population and hence maybe prevent, in their minds, climate change, or for whatever reason they did it. So I'd like to believe it was a mistake, but I don't know. I can't imagine how this could have been a mistake.
I agree with you. I think it was done on purpose to get Trump out from day one, and they succeeded in it because they knew by releasing this virus that would be his failure. He would never win again. And then another thing is, let me tell you something. If there's write-in votes allowed, like it was last time,
Yep.
the Democrats will win again. I don't care who you have up there running against them. They will cheat and win again. You have truck drivers coming on national TV saying, yes, I had a whole truckload of votes for Trump, and they were either discarded or sent some other place. This is a damn joke, man. And I'm getting back to the virus. To tell you what made me get the shot too, also, was when my doctor said to me, he's a real cool guy. I have a cardiologist because I had a heart condition since I was 18. I OD'd when I was 18, and I died for 6 minutes. And I
Jesus.
did have an out of body
I
experience,
was just going to
and
ask
I'm
you. You
not
need to tell
afraid
us
to.
about that. Once you have
Well,
a moment, tell us about the out of body experience. I want to hear about that.
I will. I will. And my doctor said to me, you know what, Felix, this is like the flu. Do you know anybody who never got the flu? He says, I hate to tell you this. You're your own man. You get the shot, don't get the shot. It's up to you. But everyone's going to get this virus.
Yep.
Everyone. And that's what made me go. And getting back to the part where, I'm not afraid to die. Well, I was 18 years old. Me and my two buddies, we were smoking angel dust. And I came from a really hard family, and I don't really want to get into that part.
Okay.
But my father was an ex boxer, and he was Jack Sharkey's sparring partner. Now you'll have to look up who Jack Sharkey was. I don't know if you knew, but he was a famous boxer. He fought Jack Dempsey. He fought a lot of old time boxers. My father had me at a very old age. He was born in 1909. And, when he had me, he was like almost 50 years old. So, but anyhow, back in, I was like a rebel. I was like a wild teenager. I did everything and anything. Started drinking and smoking when I was 13. So, even though I was born in Connecticut, I grew up in Harlem with my grandparents on East 125th Street. I met Malcolm X. I hung out with the Black Panthers. I was the only white person allowed inside their their office that they had in Harlem at the time, and that's another whole story. But we were smoking angel dust, and two of my friends took a couple of hits from a joint we had, and they fell out. They just collapsed. So, like an idiot, I smoked the rest. And what happened was my heart was going around 290 beats per minute.
Jesus.
So 280, 290, and I ran up this hill, and I seen my friend's mother, and I said, "Put your hand on my chest." So she called the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. When they got me to the hospital, they cut off all my clothes, and I was hallucinating, and I was hearing them in echo. They were saying, "What'd you take? Take, take, take." That's all I was hearing. And they said, well, his heart's going 280, 290, so we're going to have to do something. And back in those days, I guess they didn't know much. So they said, let's shock him and see if his rhythm comes back to normal. So they shocked me. And all of a sudden, I'm in this field. And I have to tell you, I've never seen color like this in my life. I was walking on grass, and about 100 yards down were these huge pine trees, and there was this nice white light coming through this pine tree, and I knew I had to get to the other side of those trees. So I'm just walking, and the grass. It's hard for me to explain, but the grass was part of me. The trees were part of me. When I walked on the grass, I felt their life. They were like breathing, each little grass thing. And these two sparrows flew over me and looked at me, and I could communicate with them through my mind. And they just went by me. And as I was walking towards the pine trees, a man appeared next to me on the left side of me, and he had a white robe on, and his face was covered, and he grabbed my wrist, And he said, "No, Felix, you're not going there yet. You're going back." And I said, "No, no, please don't send me back." And I have to say, you take everything that's ever happened to you in your life, good, and put it all into one and shove it inside your heart. That's the way I felt. I've never in my entire life felt love like that ever. I just can't explain it. I get the chills talking about it. And this happened, what, 50 something years ago. I just like, I can't explain it. So evidently, what the doctors told me was they brought me back. And as I came back, I was saying, "No, no, please let me stay." That's what I was saying. And I never saw the person's face, but I know it was Jesus Christ. I just knew it. And when I was in intensive care following after that, they brought me back. When I came to it, I'll mention that my heart was still racing, 280, 290. And what they did was they shot me up with morphine. So obviously that relaxed me. And so three of the doctors came upstairs, and a day later, one of the doctors came to me and said, "Felix, I got to ask you a question. What happened? Because when you came back, you were saying, 'No, no, please let me stay.'" And I told him what happened, and this doctor started crying, I, you know, and then he walked out the room, and then he stuck his head back in the door, and he goes, "You know what you saw, didn't you?" I said, "I know exactly what I saw." But I have to say, after that experience, and which another odd thing happened, 7 days after this happened to me, I had the same dream as I did when I passed away for those 6 minutes for 7 days in a row, nonstop. And that was it. So that's why, I say I'm not afraid to die, because I'm not. And if that's where I'm going when I do, then so be it. I'm ready. You know what I mean? I'm ready, because I've never felt love like that in my life. Never.
The man in
And
the robe,
it was
what did he look
something.
like? What kind of description can you give of him? Did he look like the typical Jesus that we see in pictures? Or what did he
I
look
couldn't
like?
see his face. I
Okay.
could not see his face because the robe covered his face. And I felt his hand grab my left wrist, when he said, "Felix, you're not coming here yet. You're going back down." And that's when I said, "No, no, no, please, please let me stay. Let me stay." He says, "No, you're going back." And that's when I felt my life come back again,
Hmm.
you know?
So you were talking about how your body kind of like melded together with things almost. I mean, what was it like as far as the visuals, additional visuals? Was it, I mean, bright? Was it just beautiful? Could you see things clearly? I mean, what did the visuals
Yeah.
look like, if you remember?
Well, it was amazing because then years later, I read a book about someone who passed away. I believe it was called Heaven Can't Wait. And this person said that they saw almost the same thing, but the colors, the green was not like a green. It was like a little dark. It was darker, but it was vibrant. Everything was crystal clear, everything. And soon as I opened my eyes and I walked on that field, the love just rushed through my body. And I thought of nothing. I didn't think of my mom or dad at the time because I just turned 18. I didn't think of nothing, but I knew I had to go to that light beyond the pine trees. I knew I had to get to it. And the light was like pure, pure white. And it was almost the same color as the robe Jesus was wearing, pure white.
Wow.
And everything was crystal clear. It was blue sky with perfect like clouds, perfect white, not as pure white as the light and the robe that he was wearing. And he gripped me pretty hard on my wrist. It wasn't just like a light grip. And he was at the time, I believe I was five. I'm 6 foot tall. I think I was like almost 6 feet, about maybe 5'11" or 6 foot, and he was just as tall as me. a little heavier. Now I'm like 210 pounds, and back then I was like 135, 140. So he was a lot, bigger than I was.
Were you afraid at
And
all?
he
Did you
had
have any
a
fear at all? Were you afraid when you were there? Or
none.
not at all. Hmm.
Oh man, none. I felt so good. I mean, I really can't explain it. And I really, there's nothing that came close. And I held my kids when they were born, and I have three daughters, and I had a son that passed away, and it was just, I just can't explain it. I can't explain it. It was love like I'd never felt before.
It's amazing to me. When I was younger, I was really afraid of passing away, and it was something that
Yep.
bothered me quite a bit. But I mean, I've never had a near death experience, but the older I get, the less afraid I am of dying. I'm not sure why that's the case. I was
Yeah.
actually thinking about this last night. I've almost made peace with it, and maybe that's something that comes with age. Where I mean, again, I don't want to die. I enjoy my life. I like being here, but I'm not terrified of it anymore like I was at one point. And it sounds like for you having this experience, I mean, you have no fear. You If it happens, it happens. I mean, obviously you're happy here living your life, but if you pass, you're going to a better place. I think that would bring a lot of comfort for a lot of people in this world, because there are so many people that don't believe that there's anything after this life. And I'm not like a
Yeah.
go to church every week type of guy. I'm really not. And I shouldn't say every week. I mean,
Yep.
if I go once a year, it's kind of a surprise. But
Yeah.
for me, I do believe there's something afterwards. And for me, it's not about making
Yep.
myself feel better. It's what I truly believe, because people will say it's not possible. But I mean, my response
Yeah.
always is, well, think about us being here. We're these human beings on this big rock traveling through space. Why the hell are we here? How did we get here? What's the purpose for us
Hmm.
being here? And if we can be here and we were born into this world, why can't we be born into another world after we leave this world? To me, it just makes sense
Yeah.
that there must be something after this. So it's good to hear that
Yep.
you had that experience, because that really interests me that you went through this.
Well,
It's just amazing.
I'll tell you something on the subject you just brought up. When I was working in a nursing home, there was this tough guy, man. He was like John Wayne. He was an ex chief of police. And again, I never mention no names. And he called me in the room one day and he was crying. And I never seen this man cry. And I said, he had all his mind to him. He said, Felix, I'm scared. I said, what are you scared of? He said, I'm scared of dying. And I never believed in anything. And I'm about to pass away. We knew he had a terminal disease. And I said, listen, if you want tonight, before you go to bed, pray to Jesus Christ and ask him to take you. And he says, well, I don't know if he would do that. I never prayed to him ever. I said, well, you can do it now. And if you're afraid of things you've done in your life, ask him to forgive you. Now, don't get me wrong, John. I'm no Jesus freak here. I'm not walking around preaching this. I'm far from that. All right. But, and you would think I would be after seeing him, but I'm not. And so that night, I went home. I came in. I never forget this. I went up to the third floor where he was, and I see his bed raised and it's empty. So the head nurse came up to me and said, Felix, I know you favored this man, and I'm sorry he passed away last night. I says, oh, damn. She said, but there's something in his room that's on the bedside table for you. And I said, what is it? She said, well, you go in there and get it. I walked in the room and there was a piece of paper folded up. So I picked it up and it said, thank you, Felix, on the paper. That
Wow.
was it. I mean, I like lost it. Like, holy shit. I just lost it. But like you said, I guess people, when they're sick or something, they're afraid, especially if you have a terminal illness, you're afraid to die. And I don't blame anybody who is. But after what I saw, and I know now, believe me, there's something else out there. So don't be afraid. There's something else out there waiting for everybody.
No, I believe the same thing. And, I run into so many people that just don't believe. And, again, I don't want people to think that, all of a sudden we're Bible beaters in here. We're not. I mean, I'm a guy that has faith. I don't normally agree a lot of times with organized religion. Yes, it is. Prayers to you, Doss. Hey, give me some fire down there. Where's the fire? I want fire from everybody. Isn't that what they do in their shows?
Yeah, in the name
fire.
of Jesus.
Light it up, baby. I want to see some fire
in
down
the
there.
name of Jesus.
I tune into those. I don't even know what the hell they're saying. Maybe it's another language. There we go. There's some fire from Doss.
I used to love going in their shows, in their podcasts. You know what cracks me up? They got 1 million hits, and all you hear is, in the name of Jesus, Jesus.
Well, I love it when they're in a different language. They'll be like, blah, 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 John DeVito show, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, oh, they see me. Okay. So it's funny how they can say it perfectly. No, blah, 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 John DeVito show. It's like, wow, they got that. That's pretty cool.
They better not hear this voice. Oh, yes, I love you.
Oh, my God. I'll tell you, man, this has been a good show. I don't go into a lot of different shows. Crazy Train, good to see you. Good to have you in the show. I don't go into a lot of shows. The few times I've been to yours, I've enjoyed it. Part of the problem is I'm an early to bed guy on Fridays a lot of times and doing busy with sports and all that stuff. So I miss your show sometimes.
Yep.
But again, we're at about an hour. We're going to wrap it up shortly. If you could, again, tell the new people in here, I'm sure they've all seen your show, but for the people that are going to be downloading the show, tell them again a little bit about your show, when it can be found. Tell them about your show again tomorrow night, and give everyone a reason to tune in.
All right. My show is on every Friday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this Friday's show is Joe Biden's Your Anus. And you're going to love this show. It's wild, crazy. Anything goes. Anybody could call in. I don't care, what you say. You just call in. You could call in and pee on the mic if you want, and we'll all listen. It's not going to matter to me. I don't give a damn. Whatever floats your boat is fine with me.
Pardon me.
Oh, even that. So you could even, you could even fart on the mic if you want. It doesn't bother me. You know what, John? I want to have you on my show one night.
I'd love to.
And I'm going to ask you questions. These questions are going to be tough.
Hey, again, I can adapt to any atmosphere. Usually during the morning, I try not to swear too much. But you get me on night. I'll let it rip, baby. I'll come.
All right.
Oh, actually,
I'm going to let you
I'll
know.
take one of my little gummies before I come on, so I'm good and ready to go.
I'm going to let you know when I'm going to have you on.
Cool.
And listen, your show's fantastic. I love you. When you're on my show, I'm going to tell everybody listening to follow you. Download your show. It's fantastic. I love you. Eric is the man. Eric should be getting paid from Podbean. He needs to get paid.
Well, I'll tell you what, a very short time ago, and this is about you, Eric, I was ready to quit. I was done. You're just sick of doing the podcast. Eric was the guy that texted me over and over again and kind of convinced me not to quit, to give it one more shot. He's the guy that pushed me to do the interviews again. And if you could see the emails he sends out on my behalf to different people, talking about well-organized, well-written emails, asking people to come on. He's respectful and persistent.
Yep.
Eric's amazing. I mean, he really is, in my opinion,
he is
the heart and soul of Podbean. That's for Eric.
He is. Right. He's truly a nice guy.
Yep. He is. I agree completely.
Which, when we had Vinny on yesterday, one thing he did say about this podcasting, which we know that the podcasting has really grown over the last year and a half to 2 years because of the COVID pandemic, but podcasting is still in its infancy. But I mean, I would not lose faith in say John DeVito's show or your show, Felix, or Slightly Serious, or the Old Man or Ralph, or any of the other great podcast friends on here taking off at some point.
Yeah.
But I know y'all taking off into a superstar success, being either the next Joe Rogan or the next Tim Pool or the next Charlemagne the God or Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, or Ben Shapiro. That's not an overnight thing, because this will take time.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I have no illusions of grandeur that that's going to happen. I mean, if it does, it does. It's 1 in a million shot. You have to be struck by lightning for it to happen. Quite frankly,
True.
I'm good for here on Podbean. I'm no Joe Rogan or anything like that. But for me, I'm just happy with the connections I've made here, the friends I've made here. I feel like I've helped out a few people anyway along the way. And if that's all this ever is, I'm okay with that. Because I mean, again, at this point in my life, this is something I've always wanted to do. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm doing this so I can connect with people and just share my views and hopefully share some of my life experiences that I have. I wish there was something like this when I was a kid, because again, you have your parents, but there weren't a lot of people that you could listen to help you maybe see life in a little bit different way. So that's, what I'm trying to do. And it's all good. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Felix, but I mean, if my show only stays like it is now, that's okay with me. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. I mean, basically, my show is like therapy for me because I get all the nasty crap out. You know what I mean? And I got a lot of it inside me.
It's funny. I think my wife likes it too, because then I come and I rant and rave on the podcast instead of to her. So, she doesn't want to hear it anymore. So it's one of those things. But listen, brother, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I will certainly come on your show. Just let me know when, and I'll be prepared to come on, and we'll have some fun together, man. It'll be good. And who knows? Maybe I'll drive down to Connecticut at some point with the Corvette. I mean, my car won't be worthy, but at least I could probably get admission into one of the car shows and hang out with you guys. Let me know. I've been wanting to go to a few of those. I belong to a Corvette club in Massachusetts, and I've gone to a couple of events there, but I'd love to get out and just meet some people and do that. So that'd be cool. So,
yep, that'll be cool, John. All right, John, take care. Be safe. Eric, be safe, brother.
Happy New Year, Felix.
Yep, look forward to seeing you on tomorrow, Felix.
Right.
All right, Eric, why don't you run off the shows? If you have any questions, Eric, before he goes, let him fire.
Well, there's really no questions I could think of, but this has certainly been a great show as always, and we're hoping to get a couple more get to know your podcaster interviews lined up very soon, and if Spanky is in the room, be sure to tell Scooter to check the show email, because I suggested a couple Monday, Wednesday, and Friday dates like in January, and John's going to look at his calendar to see what date looks good to him as well.
Yeah, I've got a few people. Do you remember I did that show a while back on that guy that has that children's YouTube show, Devala Onions or whatever it was? He actually wrote me and wants to come back on. I'm going to have him on again. Apparently his little venture has taken off and become pretty successful. And I've got a few other people that have reached out to me too. So we'll probably do a few more over the next couple of weeks and just continue to piece them together. If you're out there and you want to come on, just let me know. Shoot me an email. You don't have to be a podcaster. You could be a listener, someone that wants to tell a story. I'd love to have you on. And we don't have to talk about politics. We can talk about whatever floats your boat. So it doesn't have to be politics. All right, go ahead.
Well, and then like the same Shannon who appeared on Felix's show, I mean, Shannon is also on John DeVito's radar too.
Yep.
But we certainly appreciate friends who joined this live show today, and we certainly appreciate the friends who are downloading this published episode. But coming up on Podbean Live, there are plenty of great friends worth checking out. I know, like, since it's Thursday, John Gale will be on at 5 p.m. Eastern Time today with what will be his last show of the year 2021, but not to worry, he'll be back Monday and every weekday, like in the new year at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then also coming up on Podbean Live, be on lookout for impromptu episodes of the Joe Antonio Show, who's like another interesting podcaster. Be on lookout for like Tampa Bay and if you see Jeremy on Podbean, he might be tinkering with a new podcast project called Seek and Find. So that should be an interesting project, coming up in the new year if he's getting back into podcasting at some point. Of course, tomorrow evening, you've got Felix with ThisWop Doesn't Lie, like 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. And then Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you've got Spanky and Scooter with the Beans and Weenie Show. You're certainly destined to have a good time there. Be on the lookout for Slightly Serious to do a special end-of-year wrap-up and New Year's show. If not tonight, maybe tomorrow after Beans and Weenies. And also be on the lookout over the weekend and next week for more names like Crazy Train and Cold Train, The Dude Sean. Sunday evening, be on the lookout at 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the It's Doomsday podcast with Jester. And then, of course, Monday and every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, you've got the Old Man's Podcast with PJ and Eric. And you've also got additional podcast shows like Linga Longa for great music, another great comedy podcast, Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea. Hopefully, those two will probably be firing up some new episodes very soon. And also be on lookout for other podcast friends like Brian and Rebecca and Glenn, and be on lookout also for maybe some new podcast shows coming up in the new year, whether they're here on Podbean or elsewhere. And then Cracks, who does Exotics Radio over on YouTube, hopefully she'll be back in the new year, along with Ralph and Mysteries of the Paranormal. And be on lookout Tuesdays for the only crazy lady to do her tarot card reading show. And then Wednesdays and Fridays, you got the Frankie D show. And, just really awesome, down-to-earth people that I'm sure you might enjoy. And then Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you got the Slacker 82 Alpha, and another comedy show called Low Standards and Poison, but we certainly hope that everybody had like a good Christmas holiday again, and we're definitely looking forward to the new year. And a special reminder from the John DeVito show, and I know Felix is probably going to be mentioning this tomorrow night with Ann, that if you're going out partying this New Year's weekend, we ask that you be safe and be responsible. Please do not drink and drive. We want everybody to arrive alive in the new year. So if you're going to be out partying and drinking, make it a point to have a designated driver, or have a cab take you to the party and take you home. That's why we have rideshare services like Uber and Lyft, because we don't want to see any more lives tragically lost due to somebody else's negligence or any kind of reckless or drunk driving.
And for the people that are new here, relatively new, we all remember PG, the pod god, who was out celebrating, I think it was over the summer, 4th of July weekend. He was out in a boat.
I think it was before Father's Day weekend, actually.
Father's Day weekend, he actually jumped into a lake when he was drunk and didn't come back up, unfortunately. It was a very sad time for everybody on Podbean here. I mean, he was a very, very well-known podcaster and was very talented, college football player, had a well-known podcast, was a good guy.
Very beloved figure.
Yeah, he and I shared like a mutual, I guess, liking of horror movies. So we chat about that a lot in private message back and forth. And that was just a shame. So, Eric, good point. Everyone go out there, be safe. Make sure that everyone is, careful on New Year's Eve. We don't want to lose anybody. We love you all. And God knows I don't have enough listeners to, be able to afford to lose anybody. So you guys have to keep coming back. So everybody, thank you so much. Felix, awesome as always.
Yep.
And I appreciate you coming on, brother. And we'll be back soon. So everyone have a great weekend. Thank you.
Love you and God bless you. We'll
take care
next year.
And here comes the music, if I do it right. Oh, yeah. I hit the right button. Good for me. Take care, everybody. Love you now. Who wants a little baby laugh? Little baby laugh? All right, here we go.